Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, deadly explosions. Rescuers at a U.S. steel plant near Pittsburgh race to help dozens of people who may be trapped under the rubble following explosions that have left at least one person dead and two missing. This time lapse captures the blast on surveillance video. Nearby residents are advised to stay inside over air quality concerns. We are live in Pennsylvania. For the first time in U.S. history, President Trump takes over the Capitol's police department and activates the National Guard in Washington, D.C., declaring a crime emergency, even as reports show that crime in the Capitol is actually falling.
I'm Mary Bruce at the White House with the details on this historic move and the president's message to other cities.
President Trump prepares to travel to Alaska to meet with Vladimir Putin and says his message to the Russian president will be clear: end this war with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky, not invited to the high-stakes meeting, is adamant that his country will not cede territory for peace. Martha Raddatz reports. New flood threats across the southeast and southern plains, while 30 million Americans are on heat alert for high temperatures from coast to coast. This is Tropical Storm Erin picks up steam in the Atlantic. Will it hit the U.S.? Ginger Z is tracking where the weather is heading. And a very personal announcement about an issue impacting not only me, but roughly 70% of all women by the age of 50. Uterine fibroids are often painful, sometimes life-altering. They often go undetected until some kind of discomfort begins. And rather than talk about this taboo topic, many women choose to suffer in silence. I feel like if there is an 80% instance in anyone's health, it should be a priority. Tonight, I share my own medical struggle with fibroids and the next steps that I'm taking in this journey.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us on this busy Monday night. We are tracking a deadly shooting outside a Target in Austin, Texas. But we do begin with the powerful and deadly explosions at a U.S. steel plant near Pittsburgh. Tonight, at least one worker is dead, 10 others are injured, and there are air quality concerns at this time. Take a look at this time lapse. There's surveillance video that captured the blast. Witnesses say there was a very loud noise, then smoke billowing into the sky. The explosion inside the facility ripped through a wall, charring a pickup truck. One person is still unaccounted for. Fire trucks and ambulances rushing to the scene. The injured taken to multiple hospitals. We're hearing from the sister of the worker who died. He was a husband and father of three. And tonight we're learning this is not the first time that workers have been injured at this facility. ABC's Stephanie Ramos leads us off at the scene tonight, south of Pittsburgh. Hi, Stephanie.
Lindsay, one person has been killed and one person is still missing after an explosion at this steel plant here in Clairton, Pennsylvania. Authorities are still here on the scene investigating what caused this blast. Tonight, authorities urgently searching through the rubble at this U.S. steel plant south of Pittsburgh after an explosion ripped through the facility, killing at least one person and leaving another unaccounted for.
Reported explosion with multiple injuries. There's possible entrapment under the rubble.
10 others injured, including one person officials say they recovered alive from under the debris.
Our efforts are very focused on rescue at this point. We are still engaged in the incident.
Time-lapse video capturing the blast at the Clairton Coke Works plant shortly before 11 a.m.
It sounded like a really big bang. It came outside and heard all the sirens, and then there was big black smoke.
Nearby residents advised to stay inside because of air quality concerns. Earlier today, Tricia Quinn telling reporters her brother Timothy, a father of three, was working at the plant when the blast happened.
He has 3 kids that are messaging me every 2 minutes, and we need answers.
Her worst fears tragically realized. Telling our affiliate WTAE late today, Timothy was the victim who lost his life.
So heartbreaking. Stephanie Ramos joins us now from Clairton, Pennsylvania. Stephanie, what do we know as far as the history at this plant? Have there been other recent injuries?
Actually, yes, Lindsay. Earlier this year, 2 workers at this same plant were injured after a buildup of combustible material ignited. Now, authorities are still here on the scene investigating what happened here earlier today. Now, in a statement, U.S. Steel says they are also investigating this incident, and they say employees' safety is their top priority. Lindsay.
All right, Stephanie Ramos for us. Thanks so much, Stephanie. For more on this, we're joined now by Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, Austin Davis. Lieutenant Governor, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. You were on site there with local authorities in Allegheny County. What's the latest on the investigation into what could have caused this explosion?
Well, thank you for having me. The investigation is ongoing. Right now, the focus is finding that missing person and making sure that the workers that were injured in today's incident are cared for and to make sure that they're getting the attention that they need. But an investigation is being done by U.S. Steel as well as Allegheny County officials, and Governor Shapiro and I's administration stands ready to support them with any resources that they may need from Pennsylvania.
We know that there are other safety concerns at this plant. What do you make of the fact that this isn't the first time that injuries have happened there?
Yeah, I'm from the Mon Valley. I literally live 5 miles from this plant. This is an issue that's personal to me, to many folks here in southwestern Pennsylvania. Obviously, we need to make sure that the investigation is done properly to make sure that we can mitigate any future accidents to happen at this plant. But certainly what happened today was a tragedy and should not ever happen again.
We've learned that unfortunately one person has died, multiple people are injured, there's still one person missing. What are the rescue efforts at this point?
Yeah, so, when I was on scene, first responders from all over the region, Pennsylvania Emergency Management, as well as our Department of Environmental Protection, is coordinating with Allegheny County government, whose emergency management is leading recovery efforts on the ground at this time. At this time, there were no unmet needs, but we continue to be in constant communication to provide whatever resources are needed to make sure that we find the missing person that's still unaccounted for.
We've heard that there may be some air concerns. Are there health concerns for residents living in this area after this massive explosion?
Look, as I said, I live in this region less than 5 miles away. I'm the father of a young daughter. And as the county executive said earlier, air quality levels have not exceeded the federal limit. I know the Allegheny County Health Department continues to monitor it. Our Department of Environmental Protection has local experts on the ground assisting the county health department in those efforts. And so as of now, we have not exceeded federal air quality levels.
What are you concerned about most at this point going forward?
Look, my first concern is that we find the person who's unaccounted for, that we hold the families who were impacted in today's tragedy close to our hearts to provide them whatever resources that they need. And then going forward to make sure that we complete a thorough investigation to make sure that this type of accident never happens before. If you'll recall, this steel mill, U.S. Steel, was just purchased by Nippon Steel. And one of their major agreements when they bought this facility was that they're going to make major upgrades to increase air quality and to increase worker safety. And we're going to make sure that we hold them accountable to do those things.
Austin Davis, Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, we so appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have breaking news at this hour. We're learning about a deadly shooting outside of a Target store in Austin, Texas. Authorities are reporting multiple fatalities. The shooter is now in custody. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman.
Tonight, 3 people pronounced dead after a shooting outside this Target in North Austin and a wild chase across the city involving at least 2 carjackings. The incident unfolding this afternoon amid a slew of 911 calls.
The suspect is armed and has shot multiple people.
Just before 3 p.m. local time, social media showing a massive response at this Target just a week before the school year resumes in Austin.
I hear on the radio, shots fired. So then, they just told us active shooter.
When officers arrived, they were met with 3 people that were shot inside the parking lot of Target.
By then, the suspect had already fled.
It was in the Target parking lot where the first car was taken. The first car crashed. The subject then ran into, I believe it was a Volkswagen dealership to take another car.
Police apparently losing track of the suspect until a bystander in South Austin called police for assistance nearly an hour later and clear on the other side of the Texas Capitol. And Linsey, police say they're still investigating the motive for this shooting. They say that this was a 32-year-old white male suspect with a rap sheet and a history of mental health issues. Lindsay.
Matt, thank you. Now to President Trump taking over Washington, D.C. Police Department, deploying federal agents and the National Guard, saying he's rescuing the Capitol from what he calls crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor. Those statistics show that violent crime is down 26% since last year. Over the weekend, officers from the FBI, DEA, and other agencies were already deployed making arrests. The president also says that the move could be used to combat crime in other cities, notably in all Democratic states. Here's ABC's chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
For the first time in American history, the president seizing control of the police in the nation's capital and deploying hundreds of National Guardsmen. Trump says to fight crime on the streets of Washington, D.C.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
President Trump declaring a public safety emergency in D.C., painting an apocalyptic picture, adamant crime is spiraling out of control. But his depiction stands in stark contrast to the official figures, which show crime in the capital is actually in decline. Violent crime recently hitting a 30-year low, down 26% since last year. Burglary down 19%, murder down 12%. Still, the president said today the D.C. police will now be able to do whatever they want.
They're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
Mayor Muriel Bowser today acknowledging her hands are tied. D.C. is not a state, and the president does have the authority to take over the city's police department.
While this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
The president has shown an eagerness to use military force in major cities. Earlier this summer, sending 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to quell immigration protests in Los Angeles. And tonight, he's threatening to do this to other cities, saying the model in Washington, D.C. could be used to combat crime in cities like Chicago, Oakland, and Baltimore, all cities notably in Democratic-led states.
We're not going to lose our cities over this, and this will go further.
So this could only be the beginning. Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. So, Mary, how soon will we see National Guard troops on the streets of the Capitol?
Well, Lindsay, 800 National Guard troops are now being called up. They will be here, we are told, in the coming week on hand to help law enforcement and assist them. Now, it's not clear how long they will be on the streets of D.C., but the president has said he's willing to go even further and bring in additional military forces if needed. Lindsay.
Mary Bruce for us from the White House. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.
We are just 4 days away from the high-stakes summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. This evening, the president is talking about what he plans to say to Putin, what he thinks about President Zelensky not being there, and the future of Ukraine. Here's our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz.
Tonight, with the historic summit in Alaska just days away, President Trump seemingly downplaying what could come of it. But tonight, saying his message to the Russian president will be clear.
I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war, you got to end it.
The president, though, lowering expectations.
This is really a feel-out meeting, a little bit.
While Ukraine's President Zelensky has insisted he will not trade territory for peace, President Trump said again today there will be land swaps. 3 years after the Russian invasion, this is the Ukrainian land the Russians now control. The question is, will President Trump agree with Putin, who believes that land is now his? The future of Ukraine will likely be discussed by just Trump and Putin without Zelensky in the room.
Volodymyr Zelensky is not invited on Friday?
He wasn't a part of it. I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. You know, he's been there for 3.5 years, nothing happened.
But it was Putin who invaded Ukraine, and he'll be at the table with President Trump. Tonight, Trump vowing to call Zelensky first after his face-to-face with Putin.
I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first. And then I'll call them after. And I may say lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal.
Martha Raddatz joins us now. And Martha, at this point, it does not sound like Zelensky will be a part of this meeting. Is that final?
Well, Lindsay, President Trump had wanted Zelensky at the meeting. It was Putin who nixed the idea, so that probably won't change. But President Trump said he is still hopeful the three can meet in the future. And again, he's promised that his first call after the meeting will be to Zelensky. Lindsay?
Martha Raddatz for us. Thanks so much, Martha. A decade after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage nationwide, justices will consider its potential repeal. The petition comes from Kim Davis, a former Kentucky county clerk who openly defied the historic decision in 2015, refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Davis, who then served 5 days in prison for contempt of court over her decision, claims the First Amendment's religious protections prevent her from being held liable. The court will consider her petition this fall. Just in tonight, the images of a small plane coming in for landing in Montana, going right off the runway and crashing into multiple planes. Our Trevor Ault has the latest.
Tonight, a dramatic scene on a Montana runway after officials say a small plane collided into another aircraft shortly after landing.
There is a two-plane crash at the Kalispell Municipal runway.
And we do have 2 planes on fire at this time.
Thick black smoke rising above Kalispell, Montana. You can see a large fire stretching down this part of the runway. The fire chief tells ABC News a single-engine plane with 4 passengers on board crash-landed at Kalispell City Airport and careened off the runway, striking an unoccupied small single-engine plane and several others. Miles Terry was eating lunch nearby and saw the plane flying in.
I was watching a plane fly in, and then a few seconds later, I saw an explosion.
Our thanks to Trevor Ault. We are tracking Tropical Storm Erin, the 5th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, as well as dangerous heat on the way in the Northeast. Ginger Z is timing out the storm for us and where it might hit. Hi, Ginger.
Hey there, Lindsay. So average first hurricane of the season happens on August 11th. So we should see Erin become a hurricane in a couple of days late, if you will, but it wouldn't be late. This is about normal. Let's go ahead and track that storm because it's way out there in the Atlantic now, but it's headed west. It's cruising at 21 miles per hour. And by Saturday, it looks like it could not just be a hurricane, but a major hurricane passing north and east of the Caribbean islands. Now, we've got that potential track arrow on there only so you know that we're watching these computer models. 90+% of them have the spaghetti plots staying away from land. However, the steering currents are what we're going to be watching because this is still more than a week away. That high pressure system, the Bermuda high that we watch this time of year, and the cold front. If it squeezes between the two of those, that would be the best situation where we would end up with it keeping it away from land. But again, more than a week away, something we just want to watch really carefully because every single little movement is going to matter. And then that other big headline, the record heat. Daily records possible from Syracuse to Burlington, Manchester, New Hampshire, and even Caribou, Maine tomorrow. Lindsay.
All right, Ginger Z for us. Thanks so much, Ginger. A federal judge has denied the Trump administration's motion to release grand jury testimony from the criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell, saying there's nothing in them that isn't already public and suggesting the administration request might be an intentional diversion. President Trump had ordered his attorney general to seek the release of more files related to Maxwell, who's currently serving 20 years behind bars. After meeting with the deputy attorney general, Maxwell was moved from a federal prison to a minimum security camp. The man suspected of opening fire on the CDC's headquarters, killing one police officer, had previously blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for making him sick and depressed. Those who knew the suspect, 30-year-old Patrick White, said to ABC News that he had become increasingly angry and conspiracy-minded after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. Upon arriving at Emory University, he allegedly fired off 180 shots, broke more than 150 windows and 100 doors. The investigation remains ongoing. Overseas now, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is defending Israel's plan for a military takeover of Gaza City. That comes as an Israeli strike killed 5 journalists in a tent housing reporters. Here's ABC's chief international correspondent, James Longman.
As Israel prepares for a military occupation of Gaza City, it's facing growing condemnation tonight for the targeted strike on a group of Palestinian journalists in their tent outside a hospital. Allahu Akbar. Emotional funerals today to remember prominent Al Jazeera news correspondent Anas al-Sharif, 4 of his colleagues and another freelancer. Al-Sharif's press vest laid on top of his body as he's carried through the streets. Israel has defended the strike, calling al-Sharif a terrorist who helped Hamas launch rocket attacks. But Al Jazeera and the Committee to Protect Journalists say they have no proof.
Israel is being allowed to tell us that it's murdering journalists and to get away with it.
Al-Sharif, who had a young family, gained millions of followers online documenting the war, while Israel bars international journalists from Gaza. He's the 184th journalist killed there by Israel since the war began. This as the IDF launches new strikes into Gaza, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defends his controversial plan to occupy Gaza City.
Israel has no choice but to finish the job and complete the defeat of Hamas.
And Linsey, tonight President Trump has stopped short of endorsing Israel's occupation plan for Gaza City, but he has repeated that Hamas needs to leave Gaza. Linsey?
James, thank you. Armed carjackers stole multiple vehicles, including a tanker truck, leading the LAPD on a car chase through downtown Los Angeles overnight. The two carjackers escaped moments after stealing a fourth vehicle as police lost sight of them. The chase began at 11 p.m., dozens of miles north of Los Angeles, but eventually led to a spectacle as the drivers circled high-rises. Authorities say they are still looking for the suspects. Coming up, as President Trump takes on crime in the nation's capital, we dig deeper into the numbers to see if the math adds up, and we'll also ask a D.C. council member to weigh in. Plus, Ford's multi-billion-dollar bet on America, the new truck that could give Tesla a run for its money. And choosing to make a very private struggle public with the hopes of helping other women talk about what's often considered a taboo topic.
But it's our fault, because we refuse to have these conversations. You know, people don't know that there's a problem until we let them know that there's a problem or there's an issue.
And it's almost like this thing, especially as a Black woman, where we just inherit this right to suffer.
Welcome back, everyone. As President Trump deploys the National Guard and puts D.C. police under federal control in his attempt to stop violent crime in D.C., let's take a closer look at the crime stats in our nation's capital in tonight's By the Numbers. As you heard Mary Bruce say earlier, violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low, down 26% compared to last year. The Metropolitan Police Department says while both murder and robberies have dropped, assaults involving a dangerous weapon have as well, down by 20%. The U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. credits its strategy targeting crews who have preyed on certain neighborhoods. One MPD analysis found that there was a 66% drop in violent crime in an area 6 months after the arrests of a drug trafficking group. Federal prosecutors say another factor, they were able to charge more than 90% of suspects last year for violent crimes committed with guns at the time of arrest. 75% of gun-related cases also saw convictions. And since the president has directly called out the city's homeless, let's take a look at that number two. D.C. nonprofit Central Union Mission says roughly 17% of D.C. residents live in poverty, making homelessness in the nation's capital 2 times the national average. And now let's bring in D.C. Council Chair Phil Mendelson. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Mr. Mendelson, you've been serving on the council for more than 25 years. Trump has long threatened to take control of D.C., so why do it now?
Well, I don't know exactly what his motive is, because he's basing it on these statistics that are inaccurate. As you've noted, his statement, the executive order says that there's been a precipitous rise in crime, but that's absolutely not true. Crime is down 43% over the last 10 years, and I'm talking about violent crime. And you cited the statistics just last year compared to the year before. So we're not seeing this increase, this precipitous rise in crime. I think it's just, I don't know, because the rhetoric from him is very different than the order itself.
So when he says we're taking our capital back, what do you interpret that to mean?
Well, I don't know what it means, because actually he says the city is ugly or not beautiful. We need to make it beautiful again. Every tourist who comes here says the city is beautiful because it is a beautiful city. So I don't know what he means when he says we're taking it back. And with regard to crime, crime is down. It's down precipitously. It's not just a little, it's down a lot. And so I don't know what it means when he says taking it back, unless it is just an excuse to enable him to try to control law enforcement in the city.
Now, part of the Home Rule Act, as you know, which allows the president to put D.C. police under federal control, is only good for 30 days. So let's fast forward. What happens on day 31?
I think you have to ask him. I don't know what the long-term strategy is. I will say I was briefed by the chief of police today, and what she has experienced so far is that there are more federal resources and more resources available to her to collaborate to attack criminal activity. That's a good thing. That's actually been going on for years, this collaboration between federal law enforcement and our local Metropolitan Police Department.
I know that you have said you really don't understand why he's doing this, that the stats just don't bear out doing this. So if you had to guess, what do you think is the motivation for the president to do this?
Well, I know what you said at the top of the show, that he's talking about other cities. I don't know that I really want to go there in terms of the speculation. We're mostly concerned about the fact that Washington, D.C. is unlike any other city, besides the fact that we're more beautiful. It's that we are a federal district. And so the president does have more access to try to interfere with or control Washington, D.C. than he does with other cities. But perhaps this is a strategy that he wants to roll out with other cities. I think it's good politics for him to say that you look at these liberal cities and they're soft on crime. I assure you, we want public safety more than anybody else does.
So we heard Mayor Bowser talk today about how, there is an issue because you guys are not a state. You don't have the normal people in place that you might have in some of these Democratic-run states that he has suggested might be next. So it appears that it would be a lot more difficult to do this in any other city outside of Washington, D.C. Is that correct?
Well, it would appear, although, of course, we saw what he did in California and Los Angeles. I will note that if the president is truly sincere about reducing crime in the city, we need him to nominate judges. D.C. is the only jurisdiction where the president nominates the local judges, our trial court and our court of appeals. And we have right now roughly a 20% vacancy on both courts, waiting for the president to make nominations for the Senate to confirm. We also need more resources in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Unlike any other city, the federal U.S. Attorney is the one who prosecutes our felony cases. And I heard last week there are 90 vacancies among prosecutors. The U.S. Attorney's Office needs more resources to prosecute crimes. Those two things alone would make a big difference in terms of fighting crime in the city. Not to say that we're not trending in the right direction, but even a 43% reduction means there's still too much crime.
So perhaps that might be one of the things, but I am curious, just in our remaining 30 seconds here, what you would say to President Trump in response to his most recent action.
I would say give us judges, not talk about putting National Guard on the streets. And by the way, I don't know that there will actually be National Guard patrolling our streets. I think they're going to be doing a lot of desk work and logistical support work for other law enforcement.
Councilmember Phil Mendelson, we so appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ford makes a $5 billion investment to build electric vehicles. Dramatic video of a boat running aground in high surf and the fall in NASCAR's victory lane that everyone is talking about. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. Ford is investing $5 billion to build a new EV pickup truck and production system. The move aims to create or secure 4,000 jobs across two of its production plants in Kentucky and Michigan. After working for 3 years in secrecy, Ford called its new electric truck announcement a Ford Model T moment. The company believes it will revolutionize the EV market with its new electric pickup truck that will be priced at $30,000, available on the market starting in 2027. Ford says its new EV is more than just a truck, calling it a mobile power plant, saying customers will be able to plug in tools, refrigerator, and even use it as a generator to power their homes for up to 6 days. A yacht-sized passenger boat ran aground in Hawaii amid high waves and nearly flipped over. The Coast Guard said 2 crew members were aboard the boat named Discovery at the time. The operator told officials that 2 large waves sent the boat off course before drifting into a concrete wall. Fortunately, no one was hurt. A NASCAR driver is recovering from a freak accident after crossing the finish line. Connors Willage tried to climb on top of his number 88 car to celebrate his big win, but his foot got caught in the window netting and he took a hard tumble onto the asphalt. The 19-year-old broke his collarbone. Willage says that he's grateful it wasn't any worse. He hopes to make a quick recovery and get back on the track as soon as possible. Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders did not disappoint in his highly anticipated NFL debut. Sanders, the son of Pro Football Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, got the start and threw a pair of first-half touchdown passes in the Browns' 30-10 preseason win over the Carolina Panthers. Deion's other son, Shiloh, also got his NFL debut, capping off a win for the Buccaneers and registering his first big league tackle. After more than 30 years of connecting people to the internet through dial-up, AOL is hanging up its iconic service. The distinctive high-pitched dial tone may sound like a distant memory of early internet days for some, especially with the advent of wireless modem connections that have replaced the conventional phone line technology. America Online, the internet pioneer of the early 1990s, changed its name to AOL in 2006. The service and dialer software will be discontinued as of September 30th. The Jonas Brothers surprised fans Sunday night during their hometown concert in New Jersey by bringing out a surprise guest at their 20th anniversary tour, Demi Lovato. It was a nostalgic reunion for Lovato and the Jonas Brothers, who all starred in Disney's 2008 film Camp Rock and its 2010 sequel. The pop band and the singer treated the audience to a few songs from the movie, with fans hoping that a third film could be in the works. Disney is the parent company of ABC News. Coming up, a very personal story, my decision to go public about my very private battle with uterine fibroids, with the hope of sparking a conversation that all too often many women don't have until it's too late. Welcome back, everyone. I debated about whether or not to share this publicly, but I decided ultimately that it would have been a benefit if I knew more earlier and had had this conversation. In a few days, I'm going to undergo surgery to finally put my struggle with fibroids behind me. I felt it was important to explain not only the process with our audience, but also my absence in the next few weeks. I'm so grateful to other women who have previously spoken out about their battles with this condition. As part of my journey, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with model Cynthia Bailey, singer Tamar Braxton, and gynecologist Dr. Soini Hawkins to explore more about this often taboo topic and why so many women suffer in silence. I've always been relatively healthy, but in a few days I'll be undergoing a major surgery.
I'm actually getting you at like 5'4.5".
Oh, maybe I'm growing.
Okay, maybe you are.
For years, I've been plagued by fibroids.
I know a history of diabetes.
And until recently, I rarely talked about them, even as they silently shaped parts of my life.
Good.
Uh-huh.
And what surgeries have you had before?
I had surgery on a finger once when I was in like middle school. And that's it.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a myomectomy a few years ago.
Okay.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Fibroids are non-cancerous tumors that grow in the uterus. About 5 years ago, I had a surgery to have them removed, but they grew back, more of them and bigger. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We do begin tonight with what this means to have a new pope. It's hard enough without any water. All while smiling through newscasts and brushing off any discomfort. That's what many of us do, isn't it? I have not ridden a bike in I don't know how long. Especially as women, we endure, we minimize, we keep going.
Let's go.
But it did give me pause this past March.
I'm Linsey Davis, along with the ever-dapper Whit Johnson, the real-life Oscar statuette in the flesh.
When the fibroids caused my belly to protrude so much on the red carpet, people on Twitter thought I was pregnant. I'd gotten this dress, and maybe, I don't know what happened when I tried it on, but it was fine. But when I wore it actually on the red carpet, my very good girlfriend, who will tell me the truth, right? And she was like, her sister messaged her and said, "Oh, the internet is saying Linsey's pregnant."
Oh, the bloat, honey. Yeah, the fibroid bloat.
I stayed on the celebrity baby bump alert. Like I was always I was always pregnant with imaginary children because of my fibroids.
While fibroids are a topic many shy away from discussing, I'm now leaning into the conversation with others who are brave enough to share their struggles publicly in the hopes that other women will feel less alone. Cynthia Bailey, a model, actress, and reality TV star, first shared her experience on The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I cannot continue to live my life with fibroids. It's just taken over my personal life, my business life.
And is now a paid brand ambassador for USA Fibroid Centers. Singer Tamar Braxton is known for hits like Love and War. And has shared her own story with fibroids, something her mother and sisters suffered from as well. I traveled to Atlanta to have a raw and honest conversation, joined by gynecologist Dr. Soyini Hawkins, to talk about our own journeys and experiences with fibroids and the debilitating ways they can impact not only physical but also mental health.
I remember going to and this was the final straw for me. I was married to my first husband at the time, and we went to a Bravo event. It was like out of town somewhere, I can't remember. And we were doing a meet and greet, and I was on my cycle, and I was probably seated for like a couple of hours signing, autographs, talking to the fans or whatever. And I remember when it was over, I stood up and I just felt like I knew what it was. It was like a big whoosh, yeah. By the time I got up, and I had on a tampon and I had a pad. None of that mattered. All that was soaked through.
Right.
By the time I got up, I'm walking to the elevator with Peter. At this point, blood is running down my legs.
No.
But no one's looking down at me. Everyone's looking at me. Like, Cynthia, oh my God. I'm like, I'll be right back.
Yes.
I got to go to my room for a second. No one's looking. By the time we get to the elevator, I'm like standing in a pool of blood. It was insane. I remember getting in the shower, and I just started crying. I was like, I'm so tired of feeling like this. I'm so tired of living like this. And that was the point. That was my breaking point where I was like, not another day.
It's a normalized situation, especially in the Black women community, that, it's okay to take a change of clothes, and it's okay to wear a tampon and a pad at the same time. I became a bit upset at my siblings and my mother. I'm like, excuse me, you mean that this is something I could have prevented or taken care of earlier, and I could have understood what was going on with me? No, it's not. This is not normal.
But for you, Tracy and Tony both ended up having hysterectomies.
They had hysterectomy, and my mother had a hysterectomy. My mother had me at 29. She had a hysterectomy, a full hysterectomy at 36.
But you, even with your sisters, you weren't saying, "Oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable."
No, because I had it too, and I didn't know that it was fibroids. I thought it was a normal period, a heavy, ridiculous normal period where you miss school, you have insane cramps. Like it would be to the point where I would feel nauseous, couldn't get out of bed, and I would be exhausted. And the exhaustion came from having extreme anemia, and that was not a conversation in a household full of women, Black women, that we should have been sitting around on this couch speaking about.
Everyone was suffering in silence.
Suffering in silence.
Fibroids can grow in any woman in their reproductive years. Tamar didn't realize she had them until she was trying to get pregnant. Tamar, what were some of your biggest, obviously you had bad cramps, bad periods. Did you have other symptoms?
Infertility.
Because of the fibroids? Because
of the fibroids.
That was blocking the process?
Yes, and I had no idea. And my whole life, I never even had a scare. And come to find out when I was going through the IVF process, I had a scan, like you said, and then I found out I had fibroids.
And so then how did you treat it?
I had surgery. It was just a fruit basket. It's like a little grape, a little avocado, a little fruit basket. And then I went through the IVF process and then had I call him my miracle baby. So I got pregnant on my own. So I was able to get pregnant on my own. Yeah, I know, right?
But that's a silent symptom of fibroids. I call infertility the silent symptoms because sometimes patients have no other symptom. They don't have the classic heavy bleeding pain, back pain. Sometimes patients just have, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom every 2 hours.
All the time, right.
Uterine fibroids affect roughly 70% of all women by the age of 50, but they are 3 times more common and often more severe in Black women, and they typically go undetected until some kind of discomfort begins.
But why Black women 3 times more likely than a white woman?
Yeah, a lot goes into that. So we know now that there's genetics that go into it. There definitely is a hereditary component for everyone. And then for us specifically, our melanin blocks vitamin D. And vitamin D is associated with fibroid growth. So it's very multifactorial why Black women, some of it will say it's our diets, it's the things that we eat, it's the perm that we permed our hair with for decades that was affecting the way our hormones treat our entire body, including our uterus and the fibroids.
I feel like if there is an 80% instance in anyone's health, it should be a priority. This should be a public health issue.
It's a public health issue. The fibroid burden in this country alone is upwards of nearly $4 billion, more than most cancers put together that women suffer from, and we just don't know it. I mean, if you think about the people that are missing school or missing work, missing productivity, that they're having to delay their fertility and their family planning, all of the way the fibroids can affect us as women and our families subsequently, it is a huge public health issue.
And not only does it affect you, it affects your family. It affects everybody that's around you, your kids, everyone, because you don't feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I was exhausted all the time. I was always tired and all I did was work. And no one's trying to hear about like, oh, you can't film today because you have fibroids. Like that's just not a doctor's excuse for this industry. They don't care about that.
Any industry.
Now, I didn't realize what was going on. I run regularly. And so I started going out for runs and I would walk home. The same route that I would easily run. And all of a sudden, I just didn't have energy anymore. And then it just so happened, getting a blood test, the doctor called me the next day and was like, you may need to come in for an iron infusion.
That was definitely one of my symptoms. I would like run someone over for crushed ice. I was like, I'd had all these weird cravings. Also, I think it's so important to bring men into this conversation because most
they
of
go
us,
through it with us.
we have men, and they need to understand what's happening to us. Like they think we're just crazy, we're just being moody, we're doing the most or whatever. But once they understand what is happening to us, I think that it's just better for the relationship. It's just better for all of it. Because I used to feel guilty that I didn't feel good. Like, you know, just even for like regular things like, you know, let's have sex. And I'd be like, I'm tired. Do we have to? I don't want to. Because I was literally so anemic at that point. I just was exhausted all the time.
Does it change your sex drive?
It does, and it hurts sometimes.
I was gonna say that thing hurts sometimes.
It hurts sometimes. Positionally, if like this side is good, that side is not so good. Positionally, for some women, fibroid because it's a hard
missionary. Don't come in with nothing else with those fibroids. You already know what's happening. And hurry up.
But that all hopefully can be treated and remedied.
Do not play with me.
Right? So I love that.
You know, I started to feel like in my journey, mental health and women's health go hand in hand.
It does.
You know what I mean? Because we were all just saying, like, we suppress what it really feels like all the time. We don't want to tell people we don't feel good all the time. And I just think that we have to take it upon ourselves to check in with ourselves and make sure we are mentally okay so we can show up for ourselves, and that way we can show up for the people that are around us.
That's right.
Yeah.
In recent weeks, celebrities like Venus Williams and Lupita Nyong'o have also tried to break the taboo, posting their own battles with fibroids, no longer equating silence with strength, shining a light on this condition that impacts so many.
I remember when we were covering the Republican National Convention, I had been scheduled for 7 straight hours of being on TV, and I'm thinking, wait, how am I gonna navigate this? But at the same time, not wanna go and tell somebody, I can't, like, I need bathroom breaks, I need, you know, it becomes an awkward conversation to have with a colleague, with a boss.
to take a listen to your heart. Just breathe normally.
After months of doctor's visits, tests, ultrasounds, MRIs, biopsies, and second, even third opinions, my doctor and I discussed the options: a myomectomy to surgically remove the fibroids, a procedure I already had, a hysterectomy, a surgical procedure to remove the uterus entirely, or uterine fibroid embolization, a minimally invasive procedure used to treat fibroids by blocking their blood supply, causing them to shrink. It felt like the hysterectomy was just the final way to, because I'm still potentially a few more years away from menopause, and I just felt like I didn't want to potentially have another 5, 6, or 7 years like this. How did you ultimately decide, I'm going to go with the UFE?
Well, when I had my procedure, I was already in my 40s. So I felt like I knew the fibroids would not come back overnight, and I knew at some point I would start menopause, which at that point I would be on the other side of it, and it wouldn't be a real issue for me anymore. I'm no longer anemic. My cycle, as soon as I had the UFE procedure, went from like 9 days to 4 days. I never had white sheets on my bed. Now I have beautiful white sheets. I never wore white pants. None of those things. Sex was better. Just my whole quality of life was better after I had that procedure.
I have a question. How do you feel about living without your uterus?
I would say that there's a little nerves. I've never had a major surgery before. So, hearing about potential side effects or blood clots or whatever that can happen after surgery, I feel there's some concern. But now that I've, had my son, don't plan on having any other children, I guess I just want to be final and
just want to be
finished.
Yeah.
It's just, it causes me enough angst and grief and, planning my day differently accordingly that I really feel like I'm ready to be finished with this journey. But I thank you for asking me. It's the first time anybody has asked me like how I'm feeling about it, and I had to actually think about how am I feeling, because I have just been thinking, okay, what is the solution? I'm wondering if you had a scenario where 80% of white men under the age of 50 were likely to get this diagnosis. Do you think that we would be further along with solutions, with research, with understanding why even it happens?
I feel like we're just starting to turn the corner. We're getting more legislature, we're getting more research, we're getting funding for NIH projects that are centered around, like, are there holistic, are there foods that we should eat different? We weren't having these type of conversations and highlighting it 10 years ago even, right? Other than Miss Cynthia Bailey, who was happy to put it on a national platform. So we're starting to get there, but to answer your question, it would have been done a long time ago. A long time ago.
But it's our fault. Because we refuse to have these conversations. People don't know that there's a problem until we let them know that there's a problem or there's an issue.
And it's almost like this thing, especially as a Black woman, where we just inherit this right to suffer. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, oh, well, why should I feel good? Like, my mom didn't feel good, her grandmother didn't feel good. Like, you just are okay with pain and feeling uncomfortable, and you feel like you just have to get through it because you're just a woman, and this is just a part of womanhood. And I think, especially in the Black community, we kind of take that on, and that needs to stop. We deserve a good quality of life.
Thank you all so much. I mean, this conversation, from that moment you sat down and said, how are you feeling? Really, it was a nice little self-check that I had to think about. But just hearing that I'm not in it alone, and hearing that this is an experience, unfortunately, that too many Black women in particular endure, it is nice to see that you can get to the other side. As a journalist, it is my privilege to tell the stories of others. And now, by telling my own story, my hope is that more women will no longer have to suffer in silence. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.